Women have been promised by Khomeini that they would have equal rights with men. Chador, the traditional shroud of modesty, would not be compulsory.
The imposition of Islamic law here has started with an order to women to cover their heads in government offices. Several of the women who stood their ground with considerable courage were stabbed as they chanted slogans for equal rights.
The women of Iran must be covered from head to foot whenever they appear in public. The law is enforced by groups of Revolutionary Guards, ever watchful for unveiled women.
I think I'm afraid, you know.
The only place that in Iran the cops won't bother us is here. We can come here, have fun with our friends.
It's not exactly clear what an Islamic republic would mean for Iran and her relations with the West. Many here see it in simple terms, as a return to traditional justice and strict morality. But some details are clear. Women, like these students, have been promised by Khomeini that they would have equal rights with men. Although chador, the traditional shroud of modesty, would not be compulsory, there would clearly be strong pressures to adopt it. And those who've become westernized under the Shah are already finding another restriction. This restaurant, under threat, has stopped serving alcohol. There'd be complete prohibition in an Islamic republic. And pornography in the cinema, for instance, would be stamped out. The definition of what's pornographic is far stricter than in the West. What Khomeini most frequently condemns is foreign influence. The Americans and British working in the oil industry are accused by Khomeini's followers of earning vast salaries. Contracts with foreigners will be cancelled, the Ayatollah says, unless they're in Iran's interest.
Yesterday's demonstration was the nearest thing to an anti-Khomeini rally yet. The imposition of Islamic law here has started with an order to women to cover their heads in government offices. Many are furious. Only a minority in Tehran already follow the instruction. But the issue has provided an escape valve for many of the men here who for days have been spoiling for trouble. Led by a few Islamic zealots, several hundred men eventually attacked the protesters. Several of the women who stood their ground with considerable courage were stabbed as they chanted slogans for equal rights.
Most of these men can be relied upon to have a gun at home, and if they can't persuade the women and other sectors who oppose extremist Islamic beliefs, then the danger is that they will bring their weapons out onto the street and that there will be bloodshed again.
Moments later, guns actually did appear. The order was eventually restored by a mullah who expressed no sympathy for the women's position. Ayatollah Khomeini is determined to see an Islamic state at all cost. Resistance to it is already growing. With no impartial policing, the split in the revolution is already open and threatens to become wider and more dangerous. John Snow, ITN, Tehran.
The Fazier Theological College in the holy city of Qom. It was from here that Ayatollah Khomeini was exiled after an abortive attempt to overthrow the Shah. It was to Fazier that Khomeini returned in triumph when the Shah was finally overthrown. Today, Iran's most famous seat of religious learning debates the tenets of the faith in Khomeini's Islamic Republic.
In Iran, every man and woman live very freely, and the chador, you said, is the religious dress, Islamic dress of our women, and our women freely accept it, not with obligation.
But the women of Iran do have an obligation to observe the rules of hijab or veiling. They must be covered from head to foot whenever they appear in public. If they don't wear a chador, a full black cape, they must wear some sort of headscarf. It's a legal requirement, whatever a woman's religion, and the law is enforced by groups of Revolutionary Guards ever watchful for unveiled women. Fatima Rahimi is a devout Shia Muslim. She works in the Ministry of Islamic Guidance, which deals with matters of religious observance in the fields of information and the arts.
She says that we feel that by covering our body, we stop the opposite sex from getting excited, and plus we stop corruption from spreading in the society.
Even in Iran's courts, women are treated differently to men. Islamic justice requires 2 women witnesses to counter the evidence of 1 male witness. How can that be anything other than blatant discrimination?
The women are very sensitive and they use their feelings most of the time, and that makes them vulnerable. And well, men are like this too, but the majority of them are not so, and so they're less vulnerable to give a wrong verdict or to give a wrong witness. But that's why they use 2 women and 1 man.
But many people are unhappy about the strict observance of Islamic principle. Some women obey the rules of hijab grudgingly, and instead of wearing the black uniform of Khomeini's fundamentalism, they wear gaily coloured headscarves hiding little or nothing of their faces. While we were filming in this fun fair, we managed to interview a woman who spoke out against the need to be veiled, but she was clearly frightened.
I can't tell. No, I think I'm afraid, you know.
When we left Iran, the interview was censored by the Iranian authorities. And women have also felt the full effects of Iran's tough justice. In June 1981, 20 young women were executed by the authorities after street disturbances in protest at the impeachment of President Bani Sadr. Nobody knows how many people have been executed since then, but even the Iranian government admits that it runs into thousands, and many of them have been young women. John Underwood, ITN, Iran.
It's Friday night and Layla is getting ready for a night out. The difference here is the party she's going to is strictly illegal. It's being held at a secret location in North Tehran. The penalty for being at a party like this is heavy. In Iran, unless you are related or married, mixing with the opposite sex, even shaking hands is strictly forbidden. If caught, people could go to prison or face 50, even 100 lashes. And the punishment's even more severe if caught with alcohol or cannabis. Under the present government, things are starting to change, but that may be because the country's facing a demographic time bomb. 70% of the population is under 26. The more the authorities curtail their freedom, the more they fight against it. The government's built cultural centres for the young. Boys and girls are encouraged to take part in activities, all of which the authorities approve. Finding ways around the law has turned into an art form. Weekends are spent trekking into the mountains for secret rendezvous. This place has become a magnet for the disaffected young. The religious police know it goes on.
A few months ago, around here, there was a lot of cops. They wanted to let the kids, like the girls and boys, talk with each other and walk with each other. Keep on asking my son, like, is this your sister? Who is it? And that stuff. It's good because the only place that in Iran they won't bother us is here. We can come here, have fun with our friends, talk with each other. It's only one day in the week. We try to have fun.